Today I'm talking all about a recent health scare and some of the lessons I learned. Here we go. Hi, I'm Jessica Valant, a physical therapist and Pilates teacher, and I want to bring science-based knowledge, empathy, courage, support, love, and hopefully some fun to the journeys we have with our bodies. There is hope and strength in your body, and my goal is to help you find it. Hi, and welcome back to Meet Your Body. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm going to be talking today about a personal story and situation that I recently went through. To backtrack a little bit, some of you may know some of the bare bones of this story because I shared it over on Instagram. So I tend to put a lot of behind the scenes things there, day-to-day things, stories, things that I'm going through. So if you aren't following me on Instagram, you can head over there. It's Jessica Valant Pilates. So some of you are kind of aware of a situation I went through recently, but I didn't get into a lot of the details. So that's what today's episode is about. And sometimes I hesitate to share a lot of personal stories, which I end up doing most of the time anyway. I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve. I tend to be transparent and vulnerable most of the time. I find actually a lot of my own healing comes when I tell stories, but I definitely hold some things back because I don't want it to always be about me. There are so many things going on in the world, and what I realize time and time again is by sharing my own stories, hopefully it helps to empower you in different ways, whether it's to use your own voice, to share your own story. There are a few things that happened throughout this situation for myself that I find could be really helpful if you're going through something that's similar. So I want to share it today because I have a few lessons that were really reiterated. There aren't things that I learned new, but they were things that were just reiterated so strongly that I want to make sure that I put it out there for anyone who might be going through kind of a health situation or health scare of their own. So that's what we're going to cover in today's episode. So let me give you the history of what happened. About 8 to 10 weeks ago, I woke up in the middle of the night to the smell of smoke. To me, it was really specific that it was actually the toaster oven that was on. That's what it smelled like, that and smoke. Middle of the night, everyone else is asleep. I got right out of bed and I walked to the top of the stairs, and I didn't go downstairs because we actually still use a baby gate. And I didn't want to bother taking it down because it's really loud. I didn't want to wake up the kids. I didn't want to climb over it because that's dangerous for me to do. I know from experience. So I just kind of stood at the top of the stairs for 5 minutes, actually waiting to see if I heard something, to see if the smell was bad enough that I needed to be worried about it. Did I need to go investigate? And I didn't hear anything. Okay, so I didn't hear anything happening. And the smell slowly but surely went away. It was not getting stronger, and it slowly went away. So this was a 5-minute process. I got back to sleep, and honestly, I forgot about it. I don't think I thought about it again. And then on a Thursday, I think about a week and a half ago now, on a Thursday morning, I woke up, and I hadn't even opened my eyes yet. Okay, I just woke up out of a dream to the smell of someone using our toaster oven to make toast. Like, it was the most clear smell. I mean, 100% I was sure that my husband was up making toast. And I could tell there was light coming in. Like I said, I was kind of coming out of a dream. That's what had woken me up though, was the smell. I'm like, oh, he's up early. He must be hungry. He's making toast. 100% that is what I knew to be true. And I opened my eyes, and he was asleep in bed next to me. And I can't explain to you the confusion. First, the confusion that went through my head. Like, what is happening? I know that that is what I'm smelling. And then a little bit of concern as I remembered suddenly the smell of toaster oven and smoke I had had 8 weeks prior. So I got out of bed and I showered, thinking this through. And I got out of the shower and I told my husband, and he very much does not get overly concerned. Neither of us do. We're very realistic about health issues. We've been through a lot with me. We've been through a lot with his mom and elder care, as you may know. And so we don't get crazy concerned about things necessarily that don't need the concern. So when I saw the look on his face, I knew this needed to be something that I addressed. I knew it wasn't just me thinking that this was pretty weird. And so I looked it up immediately online, and we'll get to the Google thing here, but I looked it up immediately online. And unbeknownst to me, it's something called phantom smells. Like, it is a very clear medical issue that people get. It's called phantom smells. I had no idea. One of the number one phantom smells is smoke and actually burning toast. Those two, very clear, are very common ones. And I thought, okay, that's weird. And then I went through the causes. And basically everything said, go see your doctor right away. And my heart kind of dropped. And I know how to read Google. I know how to read medical research. I understand the language. And it was pretty clear everywhere that if you were getting phantom smells, you need to see your doctor sooner rather than later. There are a few causes for it. There can be. No one is sure of specific causes, but there can be a few different ones. One of which is a tumor and a problem in your brain. And so I called my doctor. I mean, needless to say, the rest of the day I went through in a fog. I mean, from that moment on, my heart was racing. I couldn't really eat because there are other causes of it, but I didn't have a history of those. You can get phantom smells from actually a recent sinus infection, which I didn't have, and it wouldn't explain them being 8 weeks apart. So that's where I was. I called my doctor that morning and I got right in. They got me in that morning. I saw my PCP, who ordered a brain MRI right away. And she, you don't need to know all of the details around it. She said, yes, we need to rule this out, basically. We don't know the cause. You don't fit into some of these other categories of a recent sinus infection. So yes, let's get a brain MRI because we need to rule out we need to rule out a brain tumor. And that was on a Thursday. And then the next day, I was able to get a brain MRI scheduled. And then I waited until Tuesday, the next Tuesday. So about 5 days, I had to wait to have the brain MRI. And I had that done. And then I got my results on Thursday. So within a week, I did have the results. And I'm going to tell you, when I tell you the things that I learned from this, we're going to get into the details around it. But I did find out the results within a week, which with much gratitude, I can say the brain MRI was clear. I do not have any reason why I'm getting these symptoms though. So the brain MRI, thank goodness, was clear, and that was our number one concern. And at this point, it's being recommended that I see an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor. So they would be able to dive in deeper to start to find out why I might be experiencing these phantom smells. Again, it's something I had no idea until a week and a half ago even existed. And so that's where I am. Again, I'm not here to say, I can't really talk to phantom smells because I don't know about them. I don't know a lot of details. I don't know why I might have them. And so I can say, if you do experiencing them yourself, definitely go see your doctor to rule out other things. I have heard some stories from you all on Instagram messaging me that you experienced them yourself and then they went away, or you have a family member who did. I do know from some research that actually they're finding phantom smells could come from long-term COVID-related effects. I have personally never tested positive for COVID, but that doesn't mean I didn't have it at some point in the past. So I guess it could be from that. I don't know. I don't know without future testing. I just know that for that week and a half period, or week period, I went through something that was really scary and very unexpected. And I learned a few things from that process that, again, I want to pass on to you. So the first thing that I kind of want to say around this experience is just a reminder, if you have a symptom or situation that is weird or new or unknown, don't be afraid to go see your doctor about it. Like I said, 8 weeks ago, I forgot I even had it. I would have gone my whole life probably forgetting that I had this strange phantom smell. And then when it happened again, I didn't hesitate to go in, and I wasn't going to wait to do it either. Like, get me in and tell me what's going on. I don't do well with waiting. And luckily I had a doctor who listened and was able to, order the tests that I needed and kind of walk me through it. But don't sit on symptoms that are completely new or completely unknown to you. Find out what's going on, and don't be afraid to find out what's going on. Don't be afraid to ask questions, or don't be afraid to be looked at as strange, right? Sometimes we think, oh, it's got to be nothing. I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to do this. It's just going to be a waste of time for them, for me. Not necessarily. The body's a crazy thing, and it might be, right? They might say, oh, this is nothing to worry about, or the test might show that it's nothing, but don't you want the peace of mind on that? So don't be afraid to go see your doctor if you have symptoms that are just unknown to you, or like I said, brand new, or if you lie awake at night wondering about them. Don't be afraid to go see your doctor about them. And that takes me right into kind of my second lesson that was reiterated to me, is there is a thing called Dr. Google. We all know about Dr. Google, and you've heard me talk about Dr. Google. It's really easy to research things on Dr. Google, and you have to be really careful doing it, because Dr. Google does not replace an actual human being that you are talking to in front of you. Dr. Google will give you every single piece of information possible about what you are feeling or experiencing. For me, it was a good thing until the point that it wasn't, meaning I was able to get online, sift through the information. From a logical standpoint, I put emotion to the side for 5 minutes, just enough to sift through the information to discover, oh, this is kind of serious. I need to call my doctor right now. That's what it was helpful for. It was helpful in that it told me this is a real symptom. This is a real thing that occurs, which I had no idea. You can take that with you to go see your doctor and find out the next steps. After that, I had to not look at Google again, because if I went any deeper than that, which I did, by the way, for a few minutes, I went a little too deep, because if you go deep enough on Dr. Google and online, you can find any information about any disease or injury, and you can find at least one case where it didn't turn out well. You can search and search, and there could be 99 cases where that condition ended up being nothing, and there can be one case where it was something serious, and our brains will laser focus on that 1 in 100 that was serious. And I found those cases for sure, and I had to get out because it wasn't helpful at that point. It just wasn't helpful because there was nothing else I could do about it. I saw my doctor, got the test ordered. I couldn't get the test done any faster. And otherwise it was just waiting. So reading and actually searching for horror stories online wasn't going to help me in any way, shape, or form. So I used Dr. Google to be helpful, and I got out as soon as it wasn't helpful. As soon as it was feeding my anxiety, I got out, and I actually didn't look again, even though I wanted to. I didn't look again. So that's just a lesson to always, always remember. I mean, I even remember back to PT school where, I think we had Google, but just barely. I think I had just gotten my first cell phone in PT school. But I remember we were being taught, because we had to learn about all these systemic diseases, and we were being taught about all these diseases, and all of us were sure at some point that we had one of them, because symptoms are just so vague. Joint pain, stomach pain, sweating, fatigue, difficulty sleeping, those symptoms can fit thousands of different diseases, and it's easy for us to say, oh, I fit into that, I must have that. We were all convinced we had so many different diseases. And so it's really easy to find that you fit into a category when really you might not. If you have symptoms you're concerned about, see your doctor and go from there. The internet is a great place, and it's also full of a lot of information we don't need that just feeds our anxiety. So that is my advice. Use it to a point if you can find facts, and if you're able to sift through the information like I know I am. I feel okay using it. I feel okay understanding how to sift through information that might be correct and might not be correct. And then get out, okay? Get out and go the next route as needed. My next kind of piece of advice, or the next thing that was really reiterated to me during this process, is to honor and acknowledge whatever history or narrative or past traumas you have around healthcare / medicine / disease and pain. Again, if you've listened to this podcast, I think it's episode 1 actually, where I talk about my history a little bit, my health history. You'll know I carry a lot of trauma around from being in the hospital when I was 8 years old for unknown reasons, not getting answers. Already when I was 8, I was poked and prodded, stayed in a hospital, and came out with no answers. And I know that set me up for just not necessarily trusting that I would get answers. I know I have an issue around needles. I wouldn't call it a fear. It's just a strong dislike around needles, specifically getting IVs. And then since then, the trauma that I've been through with the endometriosis, with not getting a diagnosis, with all of my surgeries, IVF, I have spent so much time in waiting rooms. I've spent so much time being told, we don't know, let's do more tests. Spent so much time with that I understand I have a trauma around it that other people might not. And I'm just saying that if that is you as well, honor that. Give yourself a lot of grace around that. Set yourself up to do whatever kind of self-care you need to around it. We're all different, so I don't have a right answer or a wrong answer. Again, it's more just giving yourself a lot of grace and acknowledgement and honoring that part of yourself. Don't feel like you have to heal faster than other people in that way. Like if you are experiencing a medical test, give yourself time afterwards to heal mentally and physically if needed. Again, do self-care. Like a big part of my self-care was, so I had to do a little fast before the brain MRI. And I have had a brain MRI before for other things. And so this was my second one. I kind of knew what to expect, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I knew what to expect. So I knew afterwards, like I had a hot cup of coffee in the car waiting for afterwards. That's self-care for me. I had my electrolytes waiting because that's body care. I knew I needed to help flush that out, the contrast and the dehydration. And I had a bottle of regular water. And I knew that I was going straight to Trader Joe's to buy some chocolate afterwards to have on my drive home. I played music really loud and I let myself cry and I let myself sing. And that was kind of my self-care to be able to process it so that I could be present for my kids when I got back home. So that was a big piece around that is, again, just honoring, acknowledging where you are and what history you might have around medical procedures or unknown diagnoses, and just serving yourself in whatever way you need to. And if possible, having people around you who can do that as well. My husband is unbelievably supportive. He's been with me through a lot of this kind of stuff around this medical stuff. We have an understanding actually that the best thing for me is to know the kids are taken care of. So he always will be with the kids and I am okay going by myself. Like, again, not everyone is this way, but it's just an understanding that we have. It helps me be the most calm, not to have him with me, but to have him taking care of all the kids' needs so I can let that go. I can let go of any worry around them and their schedules. So that's a part of kind of taking care of yourself too, is what do you need? Do you need someone there with you? Absolutely have them. And especially if you've heard my episode about being an advocate, part of being an advocate for yourself or others is actually having someone else at an appointment with you. So that is a big piece of it. But if that doesn't work for you, or if you're like me, you don't have a lot of, we don't have a lot of other family members around. So having the kids taken care of, that is peace of mind for me. So I don't mind going to appointments sometimes on my own. And I do like I just told you, I have my water, I have my coffee, I have my loud music that I love. I let myself cry. I bawled my eyes out on the way to the appointment and I just let it happen. And it was cathartic. So again, honor wherever you are in the process and give yourself a lot of grace around that. The next thing I want to talk about is dealing with the weight. So between the moment I went to the doctor and the moment I got the results, it was a week. So it was a week of waiting. And I've had to wait for a lot of things in the medical world. With IVF, there's something called the infamous 2-week wait. I've been through that a few times. I've been through waiting for results. I've been through waiting for tests. And I don't have any advice on how to make it easier. And I bet a lot of you listening have been through even more waiting than I have. So many of you sent me lovely messages saying you were with me, you understand. So many of you go through regular scans because of current diagnoses or previous diagnoses, and you are in the wait consistently. And I send you, if that describes you, I send you so much love and support, because the wait is a hard place to be. And I really am not here to give advice around it because I don't have any. I really don't. I just know it's hard. And what I did, what I have found, and again, I have a whole previous podcast episode about this too, about stress and how to help move stress out of your body. What I have found mentally and physically for myself when I am in the wait is I find projects, and if I can, I find physical projects to do. So sitting and trying to focus on hours of emails or spreadsheets, that doesn't work well for me during those waiting times. I'm just too foggy. My brain is too hard to tether in. It feels untethered. So instead, we spent days doing our garden. Like, it had been on my list of things to do, and just the right time of the season came with this. And so we spent 2 or 3 days going to nurseries, buying dirt and all the soil we needed and mulch and plants. And I had the kids with me, and we were tactile. So touching the plants, I was using all of my muscles to dig holes in the ground, and we were moving earthworms that we found. And I was telling the kids about the plants and letting them plant their own things and watering them and taking care of them. I didn't look at my phone. It was really the best thing that I could do during that time because it was physical. So it helped, actually doing something physical helps move stress out of your body. It was physical. It got my mind off of it. It was kind of what I think of as big projects instead of, again, trying to make my brain focus. I could just be outside, hands in the dirt. That worked really well for me. That was helpful. Anytime I've done these weights before, I go on really long walks as much as I can, sometimes in silence, sometimes with a podcast. Sometimes I think, sometimes I let myself laugh at a funny podcast. I went with my husband a lot. He was very good to me and just would be by my side. We didn't talk about it. We just stood by each other and walked together. I sat in the sun. So those are the things that help me, is again, thinking of that, even just house projects. I cleaned out the kids' closet, I think, at some point, or I did a lot of laundry. Again, physical tasks that get that stress moving and can let me focus on other things. And that is what helps me during that time. But other than that, you have to just find a way to wait. There's no way to make it go faster. I'm just kind of acknowledging and reiterating that I know the wait can be hard. And there are ways that we can find to kind of stay present in that moment and use our bodies to help move some of that stress out. And the final lesson that was reiterated to me during this was the importance of being an advocate for yourself, the importance of using your voice. So this started that morning I called my doctor and they got me right in. And I do give them a lot of credit for getting me right in. So they got me right in and said, okay, we're going to call and get the MRI started. And some of being an advocate for yourself is understanding how the medical world works and insurance works. I knew that my doctor had to call insurance first to get it approved, and they had to get the referral sent to the MRI place. And I used my voice and questions to find out what's the next step. And they said, you're going to hear directly from the MRI scheduling place to get you scheduled. So I knew who was calling me next. That is part of being an advocate. Do not leave without asking questions, even if your brain is in a foggy place, because it's a scary place to be. You might feel blindsided by what's going on. You might feel anxious. Just make sure you ask a couple questions before you leave that initial appointment. Who can I expect to hear from? And when can I expect to hear from them? So I knew if I didn't hear by the next week from someone, I would be calling. But I got a call the next day. Fabulous. They got me in pretty quickly. So then Tuesday, MRI. Again, I asked over and over, where am I going? What do I need to know beforehand? What do you need me to bring? And then I asked when I was there, when can I expect results? They said a couple of days. I know, that's not defined, a couple of days. Okay, so it was a Tuesday, so I knew in my head, I'm going to call or find out something by Thursday if I haven't heard. So I knew that in my head. So this is where things get just kind of typical sometimes for the medical world. So Wednesday comes, I haven't heard anything. Wednesday afternoon, before the doctor's office closed, I called my doctor's office because, again, I had found out who is going to know my results. They said, we call your doctor with the results. They will contact you. So I called the doctor's office Wednesday, late afternoon. No, we don't have them yet. Okay. Thursday, I called the MRI place. Do you have results? Have they been read? Yes, they've been read, and we sent them to your doctor. Okay, great. My doctor said they don't have them, and you said you sent them. So I'm going to call my doctor again. Called my doctor again, who said, oh, we actually do have them. We had them yesterday, but they were labeled the wrong doctor's name. So that doctor didn't call you, and now your doctor is off all weekend until the next Tuesday. So you'll hear from them then. And I said, no, I'm sorry. I won't be waiting 5 more days for those results. I said, can you just send them to me? And I know a lot of times they can't. Okay, so I'm going to say that right off the bat. First, you should know you have a legal right to your medical records. Legally, you are allowed your medical records. You have a legal right to them. But most of the time, you have to put in a request that takes a few days. So I asked my doctor, can you just email that to me? She goes, puts me on hold, comes back. No, we can't do that. Okay, well, is there a doctor there right now who can read them to me? Well, no, but we will leave a message for someone to read them to you. I said, okay, I need to let you know that this is kind of an emergency situation, and I would really just like someone to call me and tell me what that MRI says, please. And this was Thursday. And they're like, okay. And then I get off the phone. And then I call the MRI place again and said, can I request my medical records? Because no one's telling me what it says. She said, you can, but it's going to take 5 days. So at this point, I have no idea how I'm going to just find out. Like, people are looking at the report in front of them, but no one will tell me what it says. So I decided, this was still, I think, Thursday afternoon. I knew they closed at 5 on Thursday. And I told myself, if I haven't heard from anyone, if I don't know these results by 5 o'clock, I'm actually going to the doctor's office at 4:30, and I'm going to sit there and just say, hey, I'm here, and I'm not going to leave until someone can just tell me what they say. And I think it's important to understand that this isn't something you have to be rude about. I wasn't rude one single time, but I was adamant. I made it clear. These are results that are fairly urgent. My doctor put in the referral as an urgent MRI. That's why it was done so quickly. And so I would really like someone to just read me these results and tell me if I need to be concerned, tell me what's going on before this 3-day weekend that's coming up, because it was a holiday weekend. So again, don't ever think you have to be rude whatsoever. But you can be adamant and very clear. You can call multiple times, which is what I did. Or you can go into the office. And a lot of times I didn't plan on being rude about it, but I was going to go in to be helpful and say, hey, hi, I'm here. And just someone needs to come out before they leave for the day and just read them to me. I'll just sit here until 5 o'clock when you close, and someone can just tell me what they say. That was my plan. And then finally, luckily, someone called me right before they closed. And it was actually the receptionist. She said, hey, I'm just calling to say your MRI is clear. And I said, thank you. And we got off the phone. And so I still hadn't heard from a doctor, but I got through the weekend because I was so relieved. Got through the weekend, but Tuesday came and I still had not heard from my doctor. So I called again, and I had to call 2 more times before my doctor would finally call. Because at that point I was saying, I just need to know my next steps. That's awesome. The MRI is clear. I mean, honestly, that's so important. That's what I really care about. But what do I do now? Because I have these phantom smells. But it took me 2 more times of calling. and them kind of moving my results around to different doctors to find out what I do next. So I say all that just to remind you, you have to be a voice for yourself. You have to know kind of who to call next. And if you don't know, just ask them. That's all. You have to start from your first person, your PCP, whoever it is. And if you don't know, that's completely normal. There's no shame in that. The medical game is extremely convoluted and extremely difficult to understand. I know that, and I am in it, and I know that. So just find out, who do I talk to? Who can I call? And I'll be honest, sometimes you have to call insurance, but that's the hardest place to call. It's so frustrating and hard to get an answer from insurance. So I try doctors directly. I will try everyone else directly before I call my insurance. And many times, like, each person I talked to was very nice and very helpful, but they're also very busy and they have a lot of things going on. So I just call over and over again, and I'll leave messages and I'll send emails and I'll go in person until I get what I need. And that's sometimes what you have to do. Be the squeaky wheel, be the voice, get your results if no one's telling you what they are. Because if you don't want to wait any longer, you can ask. And if they say we just don't have the results back yet, like if they had told me we just don't have your MRI results back yet, then there's not a lot I can do at that point. I can say, hey, can you please push this through? Is there anything I can do to help? What do you need from me? But knowing that they had the results and just no one was reading them to me, that's what made me say, you know what? I know that piece of paper is sitting there. I know it's just sitting there on the desk. Can anyone just read it to me? That's all I need. And so that's where I went with the advocacy piece. So advocate for yourself in so many ways. The minute you have symptoms, you call, say, hey, should I see someone? Can I come in? And continue that advocacy throughout the process. So there it is. That was my recent health scare. I know that it is a drop in the bucket compared to what so many people in the world go through, to what you may be going through right now. I absolutely know that. I am grateful every single second that it wasn't more serious than it was. I also know that, again, I'm going to go back to what some of you experienced, what I experienced. We're going to acknowledge and kind of honor any experience that we do have, and we're going to learn from it. And that's what I try to do. I'll try to learn from it, and I'll try to pass my lessons on to you, because that's what life is, right? What we always talk about. It's ups and downs, and it's a whole lot of lessons in the middle. So if we can share those lessons, maybe we can make it all a little bit easier along the way. But I thank you all for being here. I thank you especially for sharing your own stories with me, and truly for all of you who are messaging me, who are praying for me and praying for my family and sending us your positive energy and love. I cannot thank you enough. It means the world to me. I believe in that. I believe in that energy and those messages. And I am so, so grateful. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining me today on Meet Your Body. If you have a moment, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast, as it helps us tremendously. For more resources and workouts, you can visit my website, jessicavalantpilates.com, or find me on YouTube or Instagram at Jessica Valant Pilates.